Unlock your world one word at a time, because language isn't just about learning, it's about living. Unlock the world through language. Learning a new language isn't just about words, it's about expanding your horizons, enhancing your career, and connecting with people globally. Whether you are a language learner or educator, the Languages Pedagogy Podcast is your go-to resource for expert insights, innovative strategies, and practical tips to supercharge your language journey. Tune in now to sharpen your skills, deepen your understanding, and join a community passionate about the power of language. Let's get started. Wonderful listeners, welcome back to the Languages Pedagogy Podcast. I hope you're all doing well and feeling excited for today's episode, because we're about to dive into something truly fascinating and impactful. Beyond fluency, building cultural competency through language learning. Now, if you've ever felt that learning a language is about more than just mastering vocabulary and grammar, you're absolutely right. Today, we're going to explore the deeper layers of language learning, the cultural ones. So grab your favorite cup of tea or coffee, sit back, and let's get into it.
Audio Jungle.
When most of us start learning a new language, the focus is usually on fluency. We want to be able to speak smoothly, hold conversations, and maybe even dream in that new language. And while fluency is a major goal, there's something even more important lurking just beneath the surface: cultural competency. That's what truly elevates your language skills and brings them to life in real-world context. So, let's check it out. Here's the thing. Language and culture are inseparable. You can't fully understand a language without also understanding the culture that surrounds it. Think of it this way. Words are the building blocks of communication, but culture is the context in which those words are used. Without that context, it's like trying to navigate a foreign city without a map. You might know the streets, but without knowing the landmarks, the history, and the vibe of the place, you're still a bit lost. For instance, when you say thank you in English, it's a polite expression of gratitude. But in many Asian cultures, thanking someone too much can come off as insincere or even awkward, especially in situations where respect and humility are more valued than overt expressions of gratitude. Similarly, in Spanish-speaking cultures, conversation often include phrases like con mucho gusto or a la orden, which reflect not just politeness, but a cultural emphasis on hospitality and warmth. So the big question becomes, how do we build cultural competency as we learn a language? How do we go beyond just speaking fluently and start truly understanding the people who speak that language? Let's explore a few key ideas that will help unlock cultural competency in your language learning journey. 1. Understanding cultural norms and values. Every culture has its own set of values, traditions, and social norms, and these are often deeply embedded in the language itself. Learning these cultural norms is crucial if you want to truly connect with native speakers and avoid misunderstandings. Take greetings, for example, one of them. In some cultures, a firm handshake is seen as a sign of confidence, while in others, it might be viewed as too aggressive. In Japan, Bowing is a common greeting, and depth of the bow conveys respect, status, and formality. Missing these cues could lead to an awkward interaction even if your words are perfect. As you dive deeper into a language, you start to notice how cultural values are woven into everyday phrases. For instance, in Russian, the phrase "na zdоровье" is used not just to say you're welcome, but is also a toast that wishes good health, something deeply valued in Russian culture. These subtle cultural insights give you a richer, more nuanced understanding of the language. 2. Nonverbal communication, the unspoken language. Here's something we don't talk about enough. Language is much more than what's spoken. A huge part of communication happens through body language, facial expressions, gestures, and even silence. And guess what? These nonverbal cues vary significantly from culture to culture. For example, in many Mediterranean and Latin cultures, people tend to use a lot of gestures while speaking. Big, expressive hand movements that emphasize the point they're making. But in Japan or Finland, for example, conversations tend to be more reserved, with less physical expression, and moments of silence are considered respectful rather than uncomfortable. So, when learning a new language, it's just as important to learn the unspoken language of that culture. This will help you understand the full spectrum of communication, beyond just words. You'll not only speak the language, but feel it through the way people interact, move, and express themselves. 3. Immersing yourself in the culture. One of the best ways to build cultural competency is through immersion. And by immersion, I don't necessarily mean packing your bags and moving to a new country right now. Though, if you can, that's amazing, at least for vacation, holiday. Immersion can also happen in smaller, more accessible ways. You can immerse yourself in the culture by consuming media in the language you're learning. Watch movies, listen to music, read books, and follow local news. By doing this, you expose yourself to how the language is used naturally within its cultural context. You'll start picking up on slang, idiomatic expressions, humor, and references that textbooks might miss. Plus, you'll gain a better understanding of the cultural trends, history, and social dynamics that shape how people use language today. Imagine learning French and watching a French film. 1 minute, you're getting lost in the romance of Paris, and the next, you're understanding the cultural significance of how they communicate their emotions. It's like getting a backstage pass into the soul of the language. Another way to immerse yourself is through conversations with native speakers. This can happen through language exchanges, travel, or even online platforms that connect learners with native speakers. When you converse with people from the culture, you start to absorb the cultural nuances naturally, and over time, you gain an intuitive understanding of how to communicate effectively. 4. Adopting a learner's mindset, humility and curiosity. Here's something we sometimes forget. When you're learning a new language, you're also learning a culture. That means adopting a learner's mindset. One that's open, curious, and willing to make mistakes. Building cultural competency isn't about perfection. It's about humility. It's about being open to understanding, even when you don't know everything. You might find yourself in situations where you don't fully grasp a cultural reference or where you are misinterpret someone's tone or gesture. And that's okay. It's totally fine. These moments of cultural discovery are what make the language learning journey so rewarding. Even every interaction is an opportunity to learn and grow, not just as a speaker, but as a person. Cultural competency is a lifelong process, and it's not something that happens overnight. It's about constantly engaging with new ideas, asking questions, and being genuinely interested in the people behind the language. The more curious and open you are, the richer your language learning experience will be. So, what's the takeaway from today's episode? It's simple, yet profound. You can't truly master a language without also understanding its culture. Language is more than words. It's the key to understanding people's hearts, minds, and values. By building cultural competency, you go beyond fluency. You unlock a deeper level of communication that fosters connection, empathy, and respect. And as you continue your language learning journey, I encourage you to embrace culture as an essential part of the process. Whether you're learning through conversation, media, or travel, remember that every phrase you speak and every interaction you have is a chance to engage with the world on a deeper level. And I hope you found today's episode insightful. If you have any thoughts or experiences about how culture has impacted your language learning journey, I'd love to hear from you. Remember that new episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So make sure to tune in weekly for your dose of thought-provoking conversations. You can find our show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, and Spotify. And our website, www.mikeEnglishOnline.com. Remember, subscribe, rate, and follow us for more. Well, thank you very much for tuning in today, dear listeners, great people around the world. I hope this episode has inspired you to think beyond fluency and explore the cultural richness that language learning offers. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and continue building those bridges through language.